Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism and narcissistic relationships and healing from narcissistic relationships. So let's talk about narcissistic relationships. We always talk about narcissistic relationships as a place where nobody changes. Well, somebody's changing a lot in these relationships. Again, the primary hope of any survivor in a narcissistic relationship is that the narcissistic person will change, right? That's what gets you through the days. That's the hope that keeps you going and going and going. That your narcissistic parent will one day wake up and look up and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry for hurting you for all of these years." That your narcissistic partner will finally truly see you and have empathy and respect. That your narcissistic boss will finally recognize your contributions. We hope that they will not only someday get it, then change and have empathy and stop blaming us and stop yelling at us and manipulating and gaslighting, but then we want that these changes would persist permanently and we would have a crack at a healthy, normal relationship with them. Many of you love the narcissistic person in your life, or you want to love them, but most of you love them. A mix of trauma bonding and empathy can mean that you are able to hold on to the good moments, or you have a sense of duty or loyalty to a family member. You want to love them. Perhaps you even do love them. But change does happen in these relationships. Lots of change. And who's making all of that change? You. And that's the piece people forget. There's lots of change happening in these relationships. You're the one doing it. You modify, and all of us modify ourselves in countless ways, so much so that you may not recognize yourself after you spend enough time in these relationships. For a child with narcissistic parents, that change looks like the child morphing into whatever it is that the parent wants in order to get their attention or their regard or their love or just to be seen. And they also get trained and shaped to not voice any needs or fear that if they do, that the parent will retreat. They'll take on interests that are only interesting to the parent, but the child has no interest in. All of this is a change away from your true nature. For an adult in an intimate relationship, this may look like you changing everything about yourself, changing your appearance, your interests, your aspirations, how you spend your time, your beliefs. In fact, if you could take a psychological snapshot of yourself before your relationship and years into it, you may realize that you no longer resemble yourself. You kept changing 1,000 micro changes, likely on the hope that they would change, but instead, the only thing that changed was you. Now, the same thing happens at work. With some toxic bosses, you may even find yourself ethically slipping or doing things you ordinarily would not do, or sacrificing things that matter to you, like family, to keep working and working and working to satisfy the unending needs of a tyrannical boss. You may burn out, lose important relationships, and again, give up and change most of yourself to try to make it work. The hope is always for change, change, change in these relationships. But the bargain people make in narcissistic relationships is to keep doing things to make them change. So you keep doing things yourself to make the narcissist change. So when it's all done, you are no longer recognizable to yourself, or you never got to recognize yourself in the first place. I think part of the reason that the field of mental health has missed what narcissistic abuse is about is because the person being narcissistically abused is often just trying to make something work, that they are actively doing all they can, and paradoxically, many people in the world at large just keep putting pressure on the non-narcissistic person to keep trying. And trauma bonding means that they will keep trying. It's like that one person who gets up and washes the dishes after the party and everyone just lets them. But this isn't dishes. This is someone's life. This is your life. In much of our lives, we believe, we're told at least, that if we try hard enough, we will see results. And that is not a strange thing to believe. Unfortunately, it doesn't always turn out that way. Over the years, I have watched people who were successful at their careers become relegated into being really skilled personal assistants to the narcissistic person in their life. People who transformed their bodies and came damn close, if not fully in, to developing eating disorders. People who shifted their worldviews into a direction very different than where they started from, but a lot more in line with where the narcissistic person in their lives is. They transformed, but it wasn't really who you are, right? It's a survival mask. Just like the narcissistic person puts a mask on and off to look good to the world and be able to take it off to scream at you and confuse the hell out of you, to stay in one of these relationships, you have to put on a mask of your own. A mask that hides who you really are. Because odds are who you really are isn't exactly what they want. So yes, things do change in a narcissistic relationship. And it is, in essence, a sacrifice of you to make things work for them. And in the hopeless hope that if you change yourself enough, they will change. If that's the bet you're taking, you're better off taking it off the table and putting the work into finding your true self. The best analogy I could give is like trying to change the weather. So you may say, oh, I'm going to change the weather today. I am going to have specially weather sealed windows and really bright lights so I think it's sunny. And I'm going to have all kinds of rain deflecting covers over my patios. And I'm going to pretend it's not a rainy day. You're doing all the work. It's still a rainy day. And that's what you've got to remember in a narcissistic relationship. You can weatherproof stuff as much as you want. It's you doing all the weatherproofing. It's a rainy day. A narcissistic relationship is a rainy day. Those sunny days may trick you. But at the end of the day, the rainy day is the one thing you can count on. You're the one making the changes. You're the one making the shifts. Yes, the relationship has changed. And so have you. But not necessarily in a way that honors yourself. You have to ask yourself the question, how much of yourself are you willing to pawn to keep this relationship going? Thanks again.